So now we're going to talk about part 2 of our love story, and that is the 2, not 4. We're going to talk about part 2 of our love story, and that is the happily ever after part. So if you missed it, we did our first part of just our love story, how we met up to our wedding day. Now we're going to talk about life after we said I do. What is that happily ever after? How we made it work? All of those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first off, starting, I would say probably is that when we were exhausted on our wedding. Everything that we were planning, we were both running businesses. We were trying to build our suite that we could come in, trying to make things work, and then all the planning for the wedding, all of that kind of stuff. So we were exhausted. Went out to our honeymoon and just had really a quiet break. But then I think part of the problem is that there was so much going on before that my mind already started to get back into gear of all the things that needed to happen when we came back. And just in terms of giving a picture, is that so much had been focused on trying to build our suite and the businesses and the wedding that
Well, one of the ways that we were able, because we mentioned in the last video that one of the things that held up even getting engaged was trying to figure out how to live. And one of the solutions to that came in that your dad, who had long been talking about building another suite in the building, and being able to use that for daughters when they got married or things like that, said, hey, why don't you build the suite in this corner of this church building that they own, and that will,
which is this space,
and that is this space that we're in right now. Check out the house tour plug, right? But he said, why don't you do that? And that was a huge huge part of taking care of a chunk of the finances that allowed us to get started without having to stress about quite as much about the finances. But
that being said,
we worked really hard, but
it didn't get done.
It did not get done.
So coming from home from our honeymoon,
like the last couple of weeks, you were planning the wedding, and I was in here like every day trying to get it done.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't quite get it.
So that being said, coming home from the honeymoon, we knew that the suite was not finished. So we were going to be staying in a few office rooms while we were finishing off the suite. And because it had been so busy with everything coming up, those office rooms were being used as storage rooms, and they had no prep for us.
So we were going to have to come home.
We were coming home from our honeymoon.
Clean out the storage rooms.
And set up our space.
And try and make them into a home.
And then be trying to get the suite done so we can move into our actual home. Which meant that there was no like in the kitchen, it was just a room. So there was no running water, there was no stove, any of those kind of things. And
the offices were not connected to each other. They're onto a lobby.
Yeah.
And then we would use a living space up in the sanctuary, in the corner of the sanctuary, which is also totally disconnected, opposite corner of the building.
So we knew we needed to commit and make it work, but we were making it work in a lot of ways. And the end of the honeymoon was hard because I started panicking a little bit about what we were coming back to, I think. And so it was hard. And then when we started coming home, it was still really icy and snowy, and we were going to leave, and we ended up slipping into the ditch. So we got stuck there. So by the time
we had to wait
we could get
2-3 hours.
Like all afternoon, I
think it was like 3 hours we had to wait for a tow truck. By the time we
could get a tow truck, it was already starting to get close to evening. So I was a little bit like emotional.
It was so slippery. Basically, just what we had done, we just backed up the car like this.
And it just...
And then hit the brakes, but it did nothing, and we just slid down the hill into the ditch. Like it was...
So you were like,
there's nothing we could do.
More time at our honeymoon. This is great. And I'm like bawling because I'm like, we have to get back. We don't have a place to sleep tonight. All of that.
We needed to buy groceries on the way home because we didn't have any groceries.
So by the time we got pulled out, the sun had already set. It was getting close to supper time. We still had to drive back. And so we pulled back home, and like, I think I'd been like crying half the day because I was just like, how are we going to do this? We don't have a place to sleep. Our suite's not done. And we walked in, and our family had spent that week moving everything and setting everything up, cleaning out the storage room, setting up the bedroom, trying to set up the kitchen as much as possible.
Setting up a living room space in the corner of the
They'd moved all your stuff
sanctuary
down. And like, it meant so much because I didn't know how we were going to make that night work that first
They
night.
even painted a couple of old dressers.
Right, yeah.
Because the dressers that we were going to
Said it.
use looked like a mess. They were just what was in the
Yeah.
storage room,
And
and
so
they
we were
had to
able to, and I still
redone
remember
them.
coming back and Tina just had this huge smile on her face about like waiting for to see, and then coming back and they moved all the presents on to the stage so that we could see them. And she was just like so happy about that surprise. And
It
that
was a
just
good
meant so much.
surprise.
It was.
It was a good surprise.
Yeah. So we were able to start, I guess, like start trying to make things work, but we were still coming back into crazy of finishing off this week, getting ready to film. I was trying to get photos out to people for Christmas. We were coming up on Christmas, and it was a really crazy, crazy time. I think that first year, honestly, was like, it was, I would say it's brutally hard, but it really took us deep fast.
It honestly, that first week ranks as one of, like, after coming home from the honeymoon, ranks as one of the most difficult times in our marriage, probably top 3.
Yeah.
It was just a, like, it was an adjustment, and
Yeah.
things were not quite together, and for whatever reason there's just a whole different learning curve once you're married on how things work, and it was just a lot to work through and figure
Yeah.
out. And
I think some of it was the panic that we came back into so much. Like I said, we were running 2 businesses. We were trying to finish the suite. And like, yeah, Christmas was coming up. We came back into so much that pressure was so hard the first year we were, or the first
and
year.
on top of that, the other element of that was just that element of, like, we had committed to vulnerability and being open with each other. That's the relationship we wanted. We wanted to know each other fully, and so I often say, right, the real vows happened sometime during that week. One of those nights we were bawling and in each other's arms in a dark room, just sobbing, and that's where the real marriage commitment happened. Right,
Yeah.
that's where we said, all right, this is terrifying, but I'm going to commit. And I'm not going to hold anything back. You know, we said our vows, we're holding nothing back, but we reaffirmed it and really nailed it and
I
sealed
think it
it.
was like after being married, you realized how vulnerable it actually is being
Yeah.
married. And
Yeah.
so it was like that, yeah, that new commitment.
Yeah, how vulnerable it is. It's just
But knowing I didn't want to live the rest of my life holding back, and with that fear, I wanted to be all in and be like, you know what, it's the most vulnerable relationship. You get hurt, but I want everything to be, I want the depth that comes from that vulnerability too, right?
yeah.
I'd rather be like broken and be vulnerable than holding back.
And I think just because of that
Yeah.
first year, specifically, like in that first week even, but that first year, there was so much high pressure, high stress stuff happening in a very unideal way.
Yeah.
That it really, it pushed us to have to be vulnerable with each other in a very, very vulnerable way. And just really, like all of our good and bad, and the things we struggled with and all that stuff, in a way, just because of that pressure, just really pushed it out, and we were dealing with it at a very high rate.
Yeah.
And it was, as a result, though, I mean, that the relationship that came out of that year was amazing.
It was just that we were trying to do so much, and we knew we needed to get married to make that commitment to work forward, but it was just so hard. I mean, even just as far as kitchen, like I was trying to make everything from scratch. I had no stove, I had no sink, and
So that basically meant crock pot.
crock pot, and I was like washing all my dishes.
We
in
had like
bins.
a electric griddle.
Yeah.
We didn't even have
And a
one of
fondue
those.
pot.
We didn't even and a fondue pot. We didn't even have like one of those burners.
No.
Those electric burners.
Or
we
a
didn't,
microwave.
We don't have a
We
microwave.
didn't have a microwave.
We didn't,
it was
like,
fondue pot, crock pot,
and washing dishes. Like, we had a big bin, and we would go to the
bathroom.
the bathroom, but you
bring it
couldn't
back.
fit it underneath the sink.
Oh,
So you had to
and
fill it in a pitcher
put it in,
and dump it in the bin,
and then
take that back to the kitchen, wash the dishes, bring it back, and then dump it in the toilet.
So
Crazy.
as we had this
Crazy.
craziness, there was so much inefficiencies I felt that were added to me as far as trying to do that homemaking on top of like the lobby was like in between our bedroom and our kitchen, which was used for functions and things. And so,
Yeah, people were in and out of there. It's a public space.
Yeah, same with our living room was a public
sometimes,
space.
Yeah, our living room was essentially public space. People, they tried, our family tried to give us space there.
Yeah.
And they did a pretty good job of it. The lobby was harder because there was, like, your sister was teaching music lessons. There were students waiting in there all the time.
Yeah.
We even had storage, like a fridge and stuff
In
our kitchenette that people would be coming in and out of to get stuff.
Yeah. So not ideal, but at the same time, I don't regret it. Like, I wouldn't wish to go relive it again necessarily, but like, it was what needed to happen. And I think that really cemented us. It's not that I recommend this is how you
It's not the dream.
It's not the dream.
But
no.
But as far as what you learned through that school of hard knocks, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we really grew close. And like we were getting ready to film the first feature film. So like you decided we're going to try to do 2 feature films that first year we were married because we wanted to see if we could make it work.
Yeah.
Which meant that we filmed a month and a half after our wedding. We were filming.
Yeah.
So crazy intense first month and a half pressure for that. And I was getting Christmas photos ready for everybody.
Yeah.
And then we were doing that.
Yeah, we were taking photography clients at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but I think that really gave us the foundation in terms of setting us up for the things that we were going to do from them on, right? And like we did the 2 feature films that first year, which we'll put the links below if people are curious about checking those out.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried starting a not-for-profit, and that was a crazy intense, huge learning curve.
Yeah.
We've I was counting it the other day, and I was like, we have tried over 10 different businesses trying to get stuff to work, whether that's a side hustle or a main thing.
Yeah.
We've learned so much from it. It has been crazy. And that being said, like, I'd say that in all that time, even though it was hard, it was so worth it. Like, I'd say marriage is one of the hardest yet most rewarding things that we've ever done. And, but you have to be committed 100%. Like, there's no getting out. There's no back door. It's a complete commitment, no matter how hard it is. And really, like, the harder something is, the more reward there often is at the end of it too, right? So you can't go the easy route and expect to get the reward. And I would say that really set a huge foundation and depth in terms of starting our marriage, in terms of the things that we're able to do, in terms of how we work together, because we work together all day, every day, right? And it's like, I still say, like, we spend all day together, but I'm still like, if there's free time, I'm like, I just want to hang out with Dallas, like, you know.
And that's, I mean, some of that difficulty we brought on ourselves, right? Because we could have gone an easier route, right? Like I could have gone, got a job somewhere. I mean, theoretically, I could have gone. I probably wouldn't have been able to mentally take it, but I could have gone and got a job somewhere stable, and just, you stay at home, you take care of the kids, and I go in, bring home the bacon, and done something more standard. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that wasn't our dream.
Yeah.
And the dream has always been us. And it's something I've said, right? I didn't get married to spend less time with you, right? We got married I got married to spend more time with my best friend, not less. And so, the dream has always been to do things together and to live in an uncommon way. And that comes, it's uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Really, very uncharted territory. We're taking some of the things we've seen, people we admire, things we've seen in our parents, but we're taking it a step further, and
This we're attempting to. Yeah.
we're attempting to, and that's led to a fairly difficult path, but that path towards what we're fighting for, the dream that we're going towards.
Yeah.
Like you said, the reward, the fulfillment of something is often almost directly proportional to how difficult it is.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult, and I guess it's no surprise it's been very rewarding, and that's the dream.
But I would never change it, right? And the whole time we've just been fighting for that dream of us and doing life together and business together and trying to figure out how to balance all of that with kids and
do hard things and things that are worthwhile, right? Not settle.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing to say about all that difficulty too, like all the things we've had to work through, is that's where you've got a lot of what I think is wisdom about home living, about systems.
A lot of the stuff that comes from this channel is because of how hard those first few years were. And we were like, we have to make this work. How do we make this work?
Yeah.
And it was just like,
and taking
huge
what
pressure,
you were
right?
given from your mom and your family, and but then like, all right, now it really has to work, and finding ways to to work under that pressure, so that we can thrive in that pressure. And it's made you come up with a lot of, I think, very unique, uncommon, and creative solutions to common problems, because you've had to, and you've applied yourself to it, and so you've come up with some really great ideas.
Thank you.
And that's what this channel is about, right? Is sharing that wisdom, so you don't have to go through all that crazy stuff we've gone through in order to learn it. You can take it, and you can, whoever's watching can take it and learn, and grow with it.
Yeah, so often, I guess I just wanted to do this video because often we get, like, in movies and stuff, we get that happily ever after, and you just think you're going to be living on this dream and everything's supposed to be easy. But
Or
realizing,
you get old and boring as parents and married couple, and nothing happens. Marriage is way more than, I love the quote, right? That marriage is way more than a wedding.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get married to have a wedding. You get married to have a marriage.
Yeah.
And that marriage is an adventure.
Yeah.
It might be a lot of hard work, and but it's an adventure. It can be an adventure if you lean into it.
Yeah.
And it can be a lot of fun. It can be scary, but if you face those dragons, you can have a lot of fun on that adventure.
So whether you are looking forward to marriage someday or you are currently married, I hope this was kind of inspiring for you, is that there can be a lot of beauty that can come from a mess, and relationships are often messy, and it just takes a commitment. It takes the hard work, but if you're willing to work through the mess, you can get something beautiful out of it, and hope that inspires you with where you're at in life.
And keep watching this channel for all the best tips and tricks on how to, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's smart. You should subscribe.
Thanks for watching.
Close my eyes and think about us. I can see the person I know.